These Ipswich Town players are defying the odds. Welcome back to TWTV, where you join me, Jim Cooper, outside the temple to football that is Portman Road, where we've just witnessed Ipswich 1, Fulham 1, and I'm joined by Kallum, a staff writer with TWTD and a budding sports journalist. Yep. Kallum was in the press box at Wimbledon this week, so a slightly better result. For me, Kallum, it was a game that sort of ebbed and flowed, but it was a good game. I really enjoyed it. Fast-paced. Give me a bit of summary yourself of how you saw the game.
I agree with you. I thought the game ebbed and flowed. I thought it was a really entertaining watch. I thought Town held their own very well. I thought there were periods in the game where we were the better side. There were periods in the game where Fulham were the better side, and we had to ride a little bit of a storm, but I thought in those moments we defended well. I think a draw is probably a fair result on reflection, and it's a result, I think, if you include the performance along with the result, I think it's one that we can be pretty content with.
Yeah, I mean, Fulham are units, aren't they? Yeah. Across the pitch, there's got physicality. Traore, I don't know who their number 3 is, I have to check, but he's a big guy. But, they've got pace, and in fact, their goal was just like, they just drilled that cross across and got it in. But for me, Kallum, I really like the fact that at times we saw some of Ipswich's best. It was almost like some of those good championship games where we had a bit of control in the middle and pinged it around. But I would also say on 70 minutes, I'd have taken the draw. But then the last 10 minutes was really positive. Talk us through some of the things that took place then.
Yeah, I would probably agree with you. On 65, 70 minutes, if you'd said, we'll end the game here, I think we'd be pretty happy with it. But if you were sort of watching on the telly and tuned in on 80, 85 minutes and watched to the end, you definitely say that Town were the more likely to go and get a late winning goal. And I think part of that was the energy from the subs. I thought they brought a lot of energy onto the pitch. McKenna likes doing that. But I thought all 11 starters were excellent. There wasn't a bad performance among them. I thought Jacob Greaves and Liam Delap in particular were excellent.
Well, let's actually go through the lineup. Let's just go through the lineup. Talk about maybe, Kallum, were there things that were expected or not unexpected in the lineup, and then let's pick out some of the better performers.
Yeah. So in terms of the lineup, I think it was largely expected. I think the midfield was interesting. Some might have expected Luongo to keep his place. Some might have expected one of the new two to come in alongside Morsey. In the end, it was Phillips, who I thought maybe didn't start particularly well, but I thought he grew into the game, and by the time that he came off early in the second half, I thought he had an excellent performance by that point. The forward line was interesting. I don't think many people expected Ogbene to start on the right. Some possibly expected Amari to start there, and then maybe Jack Clark given a start on the left. That's certainly what I was expecting. But I thought Ogbene held his own well. One thing I would say about the new players, Ogbene, Schmodix as well, is the patterns of play. They're just getting used to it. There was one or two times where I thought you've just got to read it a little bit better, but I think that will come in time.
It's so true that at times, again, they didn't have that fluidity that they know, but actually there were 2 or 3 passages in the second half, I think you know what I'm talking about, where we started to ping it around and it was great to watch.
It was.
Let's pick out, so I think seeing Wolfenden staying in position with O'Shea on the bench, maybe expected O'Shea to start, but I think maybe continuity there. Wolfenden's got that relationship with Axel. I thought that was a good move, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned with Axel, the relationship with Jacob Greaves has already begun between the two of them. And I thought both were excellent. I thought Greaves was one of the best players on the pitch, as I mentioned. Axel held his own very well. Leaf defensively at times can get caught out. We saw that a couple of times with Adama. I mean, Adama's rapid, isn't he? But in possession, on the ball, I thought Leaf going forward was excellent.
I think
that cancels itself out. He was excellent, particularly in the first half going forward, and he got the assist for the goal, which I'm sure we'll touch on.
Yeah, I mean, I think in Block J, where I sit just up in here, I think we were like slightly concerned about the way Davis was being beaten, but that run forward was excellent, and obviously the Delap finish. I mean, I think we're going to talk about strikers later in the programme, but it was an absolute blast. I was right behind it. Had a really good sideline. Great goal.
It was a great goal. It felt a great goal from the stands. I saw it again at half time, and it then looked even better when I saw it back. It was. I mean, it's great centre forward play from Delap, who is getting better with every game. I think we can see that. We've said it before, he's going to give defenders nightmares. He's physical, he's a big, strong lad, puts himself about. And I think we saw what he can do in a finish for the goal, into the top corner. Leno, I think, got a touch on it, but there was no way.
Yeah, that was the point. He actually looked like he had quite a good hand on it, the Fulham goalkeeper.
He did.
But it was absolutely travelling. I mean, you can see how excited we are. We're jumping around a bit, but I think that's a good thing.
Really encouraged by the performance.
I think it is.
That's the bottom line.
I'm leaving thinking, actually, we can hold our own here. 100%. And this is, frankly, a set of players who haven't played that much together as can build into. So I just want to talk about a few more things. For me, Phillips, again, a few maybe wobbles at the start, but really grew into the game. I thought he was excellent come the end. He was dictating. I thought
he did grow into the game. I thought he was possibly better out of possession than he was in possession, I'd argue. And then you look at the midfield, we then saw Jens Kajuste came on. I think he gave it away within a minute or two of coming on, and we're thinking, not sure. But then there was a couple of really driving runs from him, and I thought he grew into the game by the end of it as well. I think we're seeing that with a lot of the players, possibly starting slow, the new players in particular, but they're growing into the game and growing into the games, and then they'll grow into the season.
And I mean, Greaves has hit the ground running, but you're right, Kajuste, or however you say it, we'll get there eventually. It was a wobble, it was a mistake, it could have led to a goal, and after that he was excellent. He was. Want to call out Morsey. I mean, many people say, well, can he step up to the Premier League? He was purring today at times, and he was finding that little thing where he finds himself space with little moves. I really like that.
It's a broken record, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a broken record, but he's like, he's the Egyptian king. He keeps
7 or 8 every week, and that's why we love him. He's
absolutely.
Captain fantastic.
Let's talk about Muric. Again, around me in Block J. A few concerns. 2 really good saves, actually. One which actually ended up on his face, I think. But I do think he's a bit loose sometimes, and I think he might be quite one-sided. What did you think about Muric? Are people being too critical? It's too early.
Possibly. It is early days, as we say. We can see the way that we want to play, and I think it's clear that we can play that way. A couple of his longer passes did go astray, and I think that caused a little bit of anxiousness from the crowd. But generally speaking, shot stopping, 2 good saves, albeit one was possibly a bit unorthodox. You can't put any blame on him for the goal. So I thought it was a solid enough performance from him, which is better because I thought last week at Manchester City there were a lot of question marks.
Yeah, I mean, it was mixed, but it was good.
It was a better performance, 100%.
Okay, just moving on then. So any other players to call out? Subs, I thought Clark came on and he had that moment where he sort of broke through jinx, classic Clark moment.
I mean, you know what he's going to do.
I know.
Everyone knows what he's going to do.
And for me, it looked like it was going in. And there was also the Hutchinson chance at the end as well. Hutchinson was man of the match, which I think was deserved, but there were some good players.
There were a few good contenders. I'd probably give it to Delap, but Greaves, Hutchinson, I thought there were enough solid. Nobody had a bad game.
Any concerns in the performance? Obviously, Fulham had pace. Their goal, I mean, they just blasted that cross in, didn't they? Any concerns today? What anything that we need to watch out on?
I don't think so, because I don't think there was anything that we weren't expecting. I think we knew that there was going to be pace down the wings. I think we knew that the step up in quality, but I don't think there was anything that was too concerning from the performance. Defensively, I thought, while we might have been getting beaten down the flanks a couple of times, when the balls did get into the box, we were dealing with it well, and that includes the goalkeeper. I thought Arrow came out and dealt with a couple of crosses well. So I don't think there were too many concerns. Certainly more positives than anything else from the performance, and we're on the board with a point. Yeah,
and I think that's the thing. Like, we wouldn't have, another football cliche. We wouldn't have wanted to go into the international break without a point on the board, without a goal. Great that Delap scored. So I think let's sort of close it out. Talk about the atmosphere. We talked about just before we came on camera. I thought the greatest team the world has ever seen after the goal. Portman Road was absolutely rocking at that point. That's about one of the loudest I can remember. I thought then.
I mean, it's great every week now, isn't it? We said it towards the back end of last season, we said it against Liverpool, and we're saying it again today. Particularly with the first Portman Road goal back in the Premier League. I mean, the 5 minutes after that were excellent, and I mean, the atmosphere was fantastic. The place is full every week. Everyone's so pumped for it, and hopefully, when things do get a bit sticky, things can stay that way.
And you know, people in the ground need to realise they're lucky to be there, because there are tens, hundreds, thousands of people who want to be in the ground and sample that atmosphere. And McKenna asked for intensity in the week from the crowd and from the players, and I think he got both. So yeah, great. So let's finish with a summary as we look ahead to Brighton. What's your summary of the game and the day?
Like I say, I think an encouraging performance. Very pleased to get off the mark. Could have gone and won it, and I think that's more of a positive than a negative. Not that we didn't go and win it, but more the fact that we were well in the game, and you know, we'll get more games like that this season, and we will go and win some of those games like that this season. That's the biggest positive to take. Brighton's going to be a completely different test away from home. But like you say, going into this international break after 3 games, the first 2 really daunting fixtures, to come through it off the mark in terms of a points tally, I think is the biggest positive.
And after Brighton, Southampton, which becomes important. Well, thanks so much, Kallum. I can tell how excited we are. Great game of football.
It was.
Fast-paced, ebbed and flowed, end to end. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll be back again soon.
Thank you.
Welcome back to TWTV, where I'm joined by Alan Lee, a former striker at Ipswich Town. I was a big fan of yours back in the day, Alan. Let's start off by just hearing a little bit about what you've been doing at Portman Road today.
Well, I've had a lovely day, great game to watch, really entertaining. But myself and there's a little gang of ex-players, Mickey Stockwell, Luke Chambers, Simon Milton, Carlos Edwards, and we've just been kind of meeting sponsors and showing people around, and we've just had a lovely day.
Fantastic, that's great. And let's get straight into it. As you mentioned there, really good game, and Kallum and I were talking about it earlier on, but it's fast-paced, ebbed and flowed. Give us your summary as an ex-player of the game.
Well, I said before, sometimes you can get a bit cynical as an ex-player, and you've watched so many games, but you couldn't take your eyes off this one. I felt at first, I feared first. I thought they probably settled into the game better. We scored that wonderful goal. It looked like we were going to run riot for a few minutes. They come back and get into, they obviously scored the equaliser. Second half, though, I was very impressed with the way we played. I felt we did better the second half. Yeah. But ultimately, you know what? I don't feel either side deserves to lose that game. 1-1's probably a fair result.
They had their passages, and they were units, weren't they? They had a lot of. They had some big guys, and they were fast. as well,
I don't think I've ever seen anyone as strong as Adama.
Yeah.
I mean, he was playing for Barcelona not so long ago.
Smith Rowe coming on as well.
Yeah, I mean, just some people there that are really hard to play to play against. It shows you the depth of good players in the Premier League. We're up against it.
Yeah,
it's tough.
And I think their goal, we just got slightly overrun, didn't we? And they really pinged that cross in. It was fast, but for much of the game, we were defending really well, I thought, against them.
Yeah, I think the back four would have. I think you look at that. I think that back four, back five, including the keeper, will start the next game on the basis of that. I thought Luke Wolfenden won his headers. Him and Greaves, I thought, played very well together. And they generally kept the ball, and Fulham had some dangerous players, and they're so quick on the break. But luckily they just punished us that once.
And I think Phillips grew into the game, didn't he? By the end, he was quite dictating the role, and I liked him alongside Morsey. Time to bring him off, but he grew into it.
Yeah, absolutely. He didn't do a lot. He didn't do a lot wrong. He had a wonderful pass. I think it was in the first half into the box. Right. He nearly created a goal. But I mean, fair play to Morsey. I don't think he gave the ball away once, and he had it loads under pressure. And he's really stepped up. He was probably the pick of the midfield today.
We talked about this earlier. He's really stepped up, hasn't he? He's handling the Premier League. He was finding that time on the ball that I didn't think he'd find at this level. But it was a good performance.
He's a good player.
Yeah. So moving on. So obviously, how would I describe you, Alan? As sort of rangy. You could also maybe a few elbows in there, but you had an eye for goal. And my worry is whether we had someone with an eye for goal in our 3 strikers. Can we talk through the 3 we've got now? So we've got Delap, Hurst and Al Hamadi. Talk us through them. Which of those is most similar to you, and what do you think about our striker set now?
I think maybe Delap. I mean, that's so important for him, that first goal today. And what a wonderful goal it was. But now, it's when you join a new club, you know, as a striker, you need that confidence. You need to know the fans and the team are behind you. So scoring a goal like that, I think he's away now. I still think he's young. I still think he needs to probably score more goals in the 6-yard box. And attacking crosses and things like that. But what a talent.
Yeah, it's a good point you make there, because he does have that fantastic run. He's very physical. He really
he's very fast.
through.
He's genuine speed.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him do more of holding up. I think he's going to have to do more.
Yeah.
Hold up. Like if you look at the Fulham number 9 today, he was very good at pinning, extremely strong. And I think as you get older, that's something that you'll get better at.
And how is he similar to Hurst, or are they quite different players? I've seen Hurst quite a lot.
I think they're similar in some ways. I think he's probably more explosive than Hurst.
Yeah.
But then I see Hurst is surprisingly good at intricate play.
Yes.
So little 1-2s. His
Absolutely.
relationship with Chaplin was very important last year, and I think he's really good feet for a bigger player.
And obviously the kind of raw talent of Ali at the end, huge following in Iraq on social media, by the way. I thought he was very helpful when he came on. He got into them, he caused them trouble. Do you see a future for him? Talk us through what you see in him.
Yeah, well, I think the fact that Kieran's bringing him on in this game today, you know, I think there's a future for him. I think, you know, a lot of good teams have numerous centre forwards. Do you know what I mean? You don't want you look at the likes. I remember Neil Warnock. Neil Warnock would have 5 or 6 centre forwards, whatever club he was at, and he could play any of them. And he had a lot of promotions. I like the way Al Hamadi is busy, works hard. Maybe doesn't have the quality of the others just yet. But I don't see why not. Listen, he's come on and he's made a good impression.
In the Premier League.
Yeah, in the Premier League. Yeah.
Well, listen, Alan, really good to get a kind of view from an ex-striker of both the game and our strike force. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll be back again very soon. Okay, welcome back to TWTV, where you join me still outside Portman Road, but connecting with Mr. Phil Ham inside the press area. Welcome, Phil. How was it in the media centre today? And was it as busy as Liverpool?
Not quite. There was a lot of people around, but not quite as chocker as it was against Liverpool. But still plenty of national interest, which we wouldn't have had in the Championship last year.
Thanks for that. And you've obviously written up your news report or match report already. You know, sum it up for us. Sum up the game, and what did you put in your sort of conclusion paragraph, please?
Well, it was a game that sort of ebbed and flowed, didn't it? I think both teams had spells on top. I think really, second half, I think Town had the best of it, and probably will feel that they ought to. I've just seen Kieran McKenna in his press conference, and he thinks we were the better side, and it wouldn't have been a travesty if we won today against very decent Premier League opposition. My kind of conclusion was that we'll face a lot worse teams in the Premier League than Fulham, and so to come out with a 1-1 draw in our third game in, with players still being integrated, it is a very positive result, really. Great goal from Liam Delap, and 1 or 2 other opportunities. Fulham will probably say they had 1 or 2 opportunities as well, but actually I think we probably limited them to relatively few, which I think has been something that's been kind of we've talked about really since pre-season. The big games in pre-season against Hoffenheim and people like that, and Shakhtar, they're very decent teams.
We were speaking to Ali earlier, and he really thought the back four stood out, and maybe they'll continue. Anything else from Kieran today? What else did he mention in the presser, please?
Yeah, he mentioned that kind of thing about how it's sort of relatively early days for us, and that we'll have to work to get wins in this division. A lot will have to go right, and I think he's correct on that. Because we're not playing. There aren't many 4 sides in the Premier League, are there? I asked him a question. I thought Sam Morsey had a terrific game. I thought,
absolutely.
He's settled into the Premier League very, very well, and just ran the show today, really, didn't he? I think he kind of galvanised the team, and really, he makes you wonder why no one's taking a chance on him.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier on, he's still finding that ability to find space, which is incredible at this level. And I think picking up Fulham were strong. They're a strong side, so it is a good result. So let's link into the forum a little bit, Phil, and talk about as we know, Homer puts up a piece on the TWTD forum, which is 3 words to summarise the game. And I thought there's some real crackers this week. One was "we can compete." One was "we'll be fine," which I really resonated with me.
Very positive.
Yeah, "off the mark." And I think this one is almost something we mentioned earlier, is more like Ipswich, because it did at those times, second half, do you remember there's that 5 minutes, Phil, or 5-10 minutes where we were pinging it around. It looked like Ipswich playing well in the Championship, didn't it?
Yeah, and actually the period after we scored as well, I think we were dominating in the way that we did in the Championship and League One.
And the atmosphere was rocking at that point, wasn't it?
Really noisy, noisy. And even before that, I think it was really noisy. But yes, 3 words.
What would be your 3 words?
Very heartening performance, I think, would be. It was a heartening display and result. I think everything around the game really today was positive. Because although we didn't get the win, I think we competed very well with a team that probably won't be in and around the relegation zone. That will do. I don't know where they finished last year, but I think they'll be sort of 8 to 12, something like that in the division. I don't think, Phil, that they'll be in like the relegation mini league that we've talked about. And I think looking at that today, it's been a good day for us, Phil. I mean, we're 16th in the table as we speak now, which I'd end it now. Just end it now. I know. I think that's true. Yeah, and yes, I think 1 or 2 results went in our favour, didn't they? I think it was a late goal against Everton, which I think means that they're still on. I haven't actually looked at the results.
Everton have had a real horror show, Phil. I think there's a stat, Kallum's here. It's something like it's the most goals. What was the stat again, Kallum?
The latest that a team has ever led by 2 goals and lost.
The latest a team has ever lost by.
Oh dear.
So quite something. But yeah, the latest they've been led by 2 goals and still lost. So that's not a stat that Everton will won, and the Saints lost as well, which is positive. Just to end, Phil, on the window. Yeah, we ran a poll on the forum. And which of the players brought in the window is going to have the biggest impact? And 30% of the vote got Schmodix, and Greaves and Phillips were then at 2nd and 3rd. What's your view on which player is going to have the biggest impact on our fortunes?
It's difficult, isn't it? But Phillips, if he plays to the level that we know he can play, I think he's going to be the best player we have by some distance. So potentially him. I think Tajud, people have sort of seen quite a lot of him from his how he did it previous clubs and with Sweden. I think he could be a huge influence as well. Delap today. I mean, Delap gets better with every game, doesn't he? I think there's a lot of people. Kieran was praising him again when he was talking about not having got in a striker yesterday, and he kind of said, "Well, I'm quite happy with the 3 lads I've got."
And to get off the mark, that's big. Get off the mark at home, and such an incredible strike as well.
Such a great goal.
Yeah. I mean, the keeper had a hand on it, Phil, but it was just going too fast. He's not keeping that out. Okay, just sorry, Phil, carry on.
I was going to say, and the other kind of key moment was that header shortly afterwards, wouldn't it? If he'd scored that header, then I think we'd probably be talking about having won the game. But there you go. It's just one of those things. Kieran did say actually about kind of making the most of our opportunities when we get them. Because again, as against Liverpool, when we had opportunities to kind of create chances, we didn't necessarily show the sort of the clinical nature that we need. But you can't argue. But yes, I mean, there's plenty of players that could emerge as the one that will be the most influential. But I think Calvin Phillips has perhaps
I think I'm with you on that one, Phil. Right, Phil, I'm going to leave it there. I think you probably need a long summer holiday that you're not going to get, because I understand it's been the busiest 2 months in TWTD history. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think we've had the busiest 2 months. I think this week has been one of the busiest weeks as well. One of the longest post-match press conferences actually from Kieran just now as well, with the post-match analysis and also the post-transfer window analysis as well. So yes, I do need a bit of a rest.
Well, it's now the international break. Thank God we're going into it with a point, and time for a bit of rest. And we look forward to speaking after the Brighton game in a couple of weeks. Take care of yourself.
Cheers. Bye.
Take care. Bye.